Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, online, thisweekinamerica.us. The book contains humor, sarcasm, philosophy, some wisdom, and much more. It's My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot, the author, B.J. Melton. His thoughts and opinions from June 16th, 2015 to July 2017 about the process of electing our president and his firm support of Donald Trump. B.J. started college at Texas Tech in 1942. When 18, he joined the Navy. In 2015, he began writing emails and posting on Facebook his thoughts of the day, a chronicle of his observations on the Trump campaign. My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot is his book. The author, B.J. Melton. And B.J. is with us on This Week in America. B.J., coming to us by Skype, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Rick.
It is a pleasure to have you on the show today, and so much to talk about in the program. Let's start about the title, My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot. Tell me a little bit about your thinking on the title.
Actually, this book was an accident because I started writing these thoughts for the day trying to do my part in electing Trump. That was the reason I wrote them. And I published them on Facebook and on all my emails. But in July, someone said, you ought to put that in a book. And I started looking and thinking, and sure enough, we got a book. The title comes because for 8 years, I didn't feel like God was in the White House. And so, in talking to my daughter, who's one of my best supporters, we came up with this title, My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot. And so that's where the title came from.
And this book is different than other books you'll find out there. I mentioned, and we'll get through some of the chapters and explain your thought of the day as you put the chapter together. Each page is a story, isn't it? You go from one page to the other. The theme and the story changes as you go from page to page.
It's a different kind of book, Rick. It's actually, each page almost is a story or is a thought. And if anyone would read the book, they would find out what's really happening today, because I talk about it in my book about the many things that they tried to get rid of Trump. So I threw in a little personal stuff, some humor, and
well, yeah, and you say at the very beginning, I'm biased towards Trump, so, you read it with that in mind as you go through the book. The book we're talking about is My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot. B.J. Melton is our guest on the program and the author. The book is available at bookventure.com in the bookstore. I want to go through some of the chapters and talk a little bit. You've explained the background of the book. Page 52, interesting prophecy. Trump is president. Talk about that and the thought that went into writing that chapter.
That was a prophecy written back in 2016 early about Trump being president and being inaugurated in January the 20th, 2017. And while I had Cruz as my vice president, that didn't work out. But the fact that I wrote the prophecy and it came true made me feel real good.
Well, yeah, and at that point in time, a lot of people were thinking something's going to happen. Donald Trump is not going to be president, and you called it, it's on page 52 of the book, Thoughts of a Patriot, My America is Back. One of the other...
He hadn't even been nominated at that point.
Well, yeah, that's what I say. At that point, that really was a prophecy because nobody really many people did not give him much of a chance. Page 81, the title of that page is Stop Trump, Gathering of Swamp Critters. Talk about that page.
In March of 2016, before he was nominated, the CEOs of Apple, Google, Facebook, Senator McCullough and Paul Ryan and Schumer all met at a private resort in North Carolina for the purpose of stopping Trump, dump Trump. And they put together $5 million fund at that point to try to make sure Trump was not nominated and not elected. That's what that was about. We we hear about swamp critters. There was a bunch of them.
And you point that out in the book. And it's interesting. I mentioned personal observations, a little humor, some sarcasm, some facts about you. A couple pages in there, 117, 118. You talk about you. I mentioned the fact that you joined the Navy, you World War II, and your son Rick in Vietnam. Talk a little bit about that and why that was so important to you to write that.
Rick, I'm 92 years old. I was raised during the Depression. I learned the values of working. My papa was a hard worker, and we never missed a meal, even though things got bad. But come World War II, when I turned 18, I joined the Navy, and like all of my friends did, many of which didn't come back. Later, my son, whose name is Rick, went to Vietnam. He won the Silver Star, but he had problems. And all last year, for 6 months, he lay up in ICU in the Veterans Hospital. And on January 9th this year, he died from his injuries and things from Vietnam.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, yeah, it was a tough year last year.
The book we're talking about is My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot. B.J. Melton, our guest on the program. It's interesting because in the beginning of the book, you mentioned how you saw your country change in the 60s. What impact did that have on you? And that was the era with the Vietnam War, and you talked about your background with World War II. What did you see in the 60s and America changing?
Well, it was the hippie movement primarily, and the protest against the Vietnam War, which may have been okay, may have been justified, but I just didn't agree with it because I was raised, like I said, with a work ethic. I love my country, and I salute the flag. I repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I do all that stuff, and I did it then. I do it now, and that's what caused me to write all this stuff I did in my book.
The book is 486 pages. As I say, each page is sort of its own little contained story. One story you have in there on page 173, Obama on Trump. Talk about the mindset as you wrote that particular page.
Well, that particular page, Obama, he was a community organizer. He had no qualifications to be president, but Trump is running now, and Obama said Trump is not fit to be president. And that kind of set me off, because I think he's much more qualified then and now to be president than Obama was. That's why I said that.
Yeah, it's interesting how each day an observation. The book is My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot, available in various formats at bookventure.com at the bookstore. If you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, you'll get information on the book, and you can link on directly to the website to be able to get information and to purchase it. I mentioned humor in the book as well, page 199, Humor the Wall. Talk about that. Talk about that page. I loved it.
Well, that is a joke. And the story goes that there was a Jewish man who went up to the Wailing Wall every day, twice a day, and prayed. And this reporter heard about him, and so she went to see about him, and she noticed that sure enough, here he comes, goes up to the wall, and stays about 30 minutes, and then he starts to leave. And so she confronts him and says, "Sir, I hear you go to the Wailing Wall every day and pray." And he said, "That's right." And he says, "What do you pray for?" And he says, "Well, I pray that people won't hate each other, that religions will get along, and this and that and other." And she says, and she says, "Well, does that happen?" And he says, "Well, no." And he says, "Well, how long have you been doing this?" He says, 60 years.
That one of the many stories you'll find in the book, My America is Back, the author B.J. Melton, with us on the program. His thoughts, his observations. I've started off as emails and Facebook postings during the Trump campaign, leading up to the Trump campaign. Page 209, dogs are people. Tell me about that page. That's one that sort of jumps out at you as you're going through the book.
After 9/11, there were hundreds of people buried under the rubbish, and people couldn't get to them. So they brought in dogs. And you know, dogs don't know they're not people, because and so they sent dogs out over all this rubbish and stuff, and they found people that were still alive, and they found people that were dead that were recovered. And that's the reason I say I've had a dog, and I know dogs. Dogs don't know they're not people.
B.J. Melton, our guest on the program, author of My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot. Page 272, you start getting into the actual campaign, the transition, giving birth to a president. Talk about that.
Well, you know, they had already coronated Hillary. She was going to be the next president. But after the election, you know, found out Trump was president. Everybody had been expecting a woman to be president. But sure enough, it was a boy. So the boy was born as president, not the girl.
And in talking about Hillary, you've got pages in there where you talk about the Democratic candidate for president. One on page 300, why Hillary lost. Everybody's been going back and sort of replaying the election and trying to get an idea as to what happened. What do you have in the book? Why did Hillary lose?
Rick, that shows to be one page, but actually it's a number of pages that you have to read to find all the reasons why Hillary lost. Mainly, she's an unsavory character, and well, I hate to say the things over the phone, I just hate to say them, you know.
Yes, and you can read them in the book. The chapter we're talking about is why Hillary lost. You know, we just talked about the fact that people were surprised and didn't think this election was going to go this way. Were you surprised at how the election went?
Well, let's say I had my fingers crossed. I was praying, and
it came just as you prophesized so many months before this happened. Page 301 is interesting. You talk about what is happy. What exactly, what is happy?
Well, I'm happy. I make myself happy. I think happy. I don't think negative. And they're just, well, there's a lot of reasons to be happy. You know, being unhappy is a miserable way to live.
It certainly is.
I do not intend to live that way.
You know, a hallmark of the campaign was the cap. You have a story in there where you talk about the cap. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, when he first came out with his cap, people started criticizing him and condemning him because the old saying was, presidents don't wear hats. Well, Trump wore a cap, and the first thing you know, in all of his meetings, everybody was wearing a cap. I have a cap. In fact, I have two caps, and I have a shirt. But along the way, someone asked a woman, said, "Why do you think Trump won?" She said, "It's because of the cap." And she said, "Why do you say the cap?" What he said, you look at it and you see, "Make America great." That's what he's for. That's what he's doing. And I really do think the cap was responsible primarily for him being elected.
It was a very simple message that he was able to get across that obviously resonated with people. A couple minutes left in the program. All these chapters are stories unto themselves. The book we're talking about is My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot. B.J. Melton is the author. That's B.J. and then M-E-L-T-O-N. Book's available at bookventure.com at the bookstore. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Talking about these, hypocrisy is one chapter that you've got in there, page 416. Talk about that, because that's a word that's really thrown around a lot now in politics. Is you're a hypocrite and hypocrisy.
Well, this story shows a lot of pictures of people that I think are hypocrites, and this is a story about when he fired Comey.
Yes.
Days before he fired him, all the Democrats were blaming Comey for her defeat. And after he fired Comey, then he became a hero, or he became a martyr.
And then you mentioned the pictures. It's interesting in the book, and it's not just text. There are pictures. It's a fascinating read, and you read a chapter, you respond to it, you go on to the next chapter. Like I said, each chapter is a specific story. And wrapping it up here, page 483, you talk about your measuring stick for Trump. He's now been president. Talk about that and how you evaluate what kind of job he's doing.
Well, I guess we all have measuring sticks, and I put these down as possible measuring sticks for each of us. I said, what is your measuring stick for Trump's behavior? Is it Obama? Is it Bush? Is it either Clinton or McConnell or Ryan or Cruz or Schumer or Franken or Maxine Waters? What is your measuring stick? And they are not my measuring stick. They're not Trump's measuring stick.
My America is Back is the name of the book, Thoughts of a Patriot by B.J. Melton. Time has gone by way too quickly, and I knew that it would. Are you still doing daily observations? Are you still at the end of the day jotting things down?
I've got about 300 thoughts that I have written since the book, and I'm planning a second book.
I was just going to say, will we see a sequel to My America is Back? It sounds like it sounds like you're on your way.
I think we will. Yes. We will.
Sounds like you are on your way. That B.J. Melton. The book is available at bookventure.com in the bookstore. Take 30 seconds here at the end. What kind of response are you getting from people who've read My America is Back?
Well, you can get on Amazon. There are some reviews on Amazon. They give you a pretty good idea.
Yes.
They are exceptional. They're very good. Very good.
Well, and the book, by the way, available, of course, at Amazon as well. B.J. Melton has been our guest on This Week in America. The book is called My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot. Yes, sir.
Can I tell you one story before we go?
Of course.
It's about humor, about Chicken Turner. When I was a boy, 6, 7 years old, we lived on a farm. We had cows, chickens, hogs, and we had a well, and it was about that we drew water from, and the wall was about 4 feet tall. Well, I go back to when my wife and I started traveling, we went everywhere, and CBs came along, so we got a CB, and so we had to have a moniker. Everybody had a moniker.
Oh, yes.
So I was looking back and trying to find out one, and I remembered that chickens always tried to roost on the rim of that well, and it was my job to make sure they were turned in the right direction, if you know what I mean.
Exactly, yes.
So I came up with the title Chicken Turner.
And that sort of sums it up, and that's how BJ's mind works. If you like that humor, you'll find that throughout the book, My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot, BJ Melton. BJ, it's a pleasure having you on the program. Let us know how you're coming with the new book. And once again, My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot. You'll find it at bookventure.com in the bookstore. You'll find it at Amazon. And, of course, link on at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. BJ, a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you, Rick, very much.
And once again, My America is Back, Thoughts of a Patriot is the name of the book. Information at Bookventure and at Amazon. You're listening to This Week in America, and we're back on today's program right after these messages.